So, hi, Chris. Welcome to Better Tech. How are you doing today?
Hi, doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, Chris, before we begin, why don't you start off by giving an introduction of what you do and your role in your current company?
Okay. Yes, I'm the IT operations director for the Americas at Veeam Software Corporation. So Veeam, if you don't know, we're backup and restore and disaster recovery solution software company. We have a great product. We love the fact that we're doing well taking care of people's data. My role in the company is I basically run IT operations from this half of the world. So we're a global company. We got people all over the world. So my teams are the people who handle mostly internal stuff, help desk type stuff. But we also end up doing, a lot of kind of integration with other business leaders, trying to make sure that, everything's taken care of and that the things that they want, we've helped them get those things, or steer them in a direction that makes better sense. Because you know how it is, somebody's like, hey, I want this thing. And it's like, well, we have this thing that works better than what you're asking for. Oh, okay, cool. So a lot of it is just kind of making sure everybody's getting what they want and that, we're able to help business leaders succeed at doing business.
Right. So, interesting that you mentioned the term business leader. So, a lot of people ask us, what is the difference between general decision makers or leaders in a company and specifically tech leaders? So, how would you differentiate those two?
That's a tough question. I mean, historically, so I've been doing some version of technology since the mid 90s. Um, Technology used to be very narrowly focused. Uh, you use technology to solve a simple problem or a specific problem. So IT people were kind of kept far away from normal business things. Business is business, technology is technology. But as we've grown, as a society, technology has become a pillar of what makes everybody's life works. I mean, from jokes about kids with their faces and iPods since they're, born, um, you know, like technology is just how we live. So when you start talking about business leaders in an organization, your heads of, the finance department or the, sales department or the marketing department or the R&D department or all these other things, whatever your business is trying to do, you're going to need technology to succeed. You're going to need that, to get a hold of people. You're going to need to keep organized. You're going to need to be able to, just utilize all of the information you have before you. So technology has become more and more mainstream as a business idea. There's still a lot of craziness with, who does the head of IT in a company work for? Do they report to the CEO? Do they report to the CFO? Do they report to the COO? I've seen all three of those things in my career. And those are fundamental discussions about where IT fits in an organization. So a business leader would be thinking about, okay, well, if I'm the head of finance, I need to make sure that the numbers are in order. If I'm the head of sales, I need to make sure my people are selling. But when technology comes in, we're just here to make sure that all those other people are able to do their jobs and do their jobs without restriction. Our job is to kind of allow them to do what they do better.
Right, and that's a perfect segue into our next question. So, last year was a very unusual, let's say unusual year for all of us. So how do you think
Sure.
that the pandemic and all the situation that arose because of that pandemic affected the mindsets of certain leaders of the industry?
Tremendously. I mean, being involved in technology, it's been amazing to see the people coming out saying, oh, this is, how did you guys do this? Our entire team is working from home, and, you set this up and everything's just seamless. And, so that everybody's really excited about, I mean, technology grows and grows and grows and grows, but implementation of technology is pretty slow. But 2020 kind of said, okay, here's all this stuff that we can do. Let's do this stuff. And then a lot of people were surprised that it worked. And finally, in the tech industry, we were starting to see praise for what we've been doing the whole time is, hey, you have a business need and technology can support that business need. So whether it be, a TV in the conference room and setting that all up for conferences, or hey, here's laptops and cameras and microphones so you can work from home, setting up VPN stuff and expanding VPN, making sure everybody's got internet connectivity. Like all those things are things that we've been doing the whole time, but until people needed it, nobody cared. But now 2020 was a big year for technology because they started realizing that they needed us to do business. So it's been really cool to see, it's the same thing we're seeing in other aspects, oh, hey, like the person who delivers my mail, this is what an amazingly important position this is in our lives. And, the people who collect our garbage, the people who work in fast food, there's a lot of where people are starting to take people in positions that they've taken for granted and started looking at them, wait, we really need these things. Like they may not be glamorous, they may not be the things that everybody's, everybody wants to be the CEO, nobody wants to be a, help desk tech, but those help desk techs are the reasons the CEOs can, continue to do business. If their laptops stop working, like you're kind of floating out in the middle of nowhere. So that was a really interesting thing about 2020, seeing people get the recognition that they've been doing great work all along.
That's true. All right. So on a personal level, I understand that 2020 specifically has brought a lot of tragedies to our lives, and there are a lot of things that we'd like to erase from memory. But what are some of the positive aspects that you've taken and you've incorporated in your life?
I mean, the first one is working from home. I mean, it's great to get up and make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and just kind of roll out of bed and wake up a little bit more naturally and normally instead of rushing and showering and hurrying and going crazy to try to drive through traffic to get to work. So for me, working from home has been great. Plus my job, because of the international aspect, my job isn't like, oh, I show up to work at 8 and then my workday starts and then I leave at 5 and my workday ends, and I get some time in the middle for lunch. It's, usually I got a bunch of stuff coming from overseas. So I come in the morning, I got a lot of stuff I got to take care of. And then I get a lot of stuff in the afternoon. And then the middle of the day is a little bit more flexible. So for me, it's, having that flexibility of like, okay, cool. Well, if I can check my email in my bed for half an hour while I'm, just kind of waking up and then, go on, start my computer, get things ready. And then, the middle of the day, hey, maybe I take lunch at 10:30 because I know I got a couple of calls at noon. Maybe I take a lunch at 2:00. Maybe, hey, I need to go run to the store and get something really quick. Like, it's been so amazing to be able to say, hey, I'm an adult and I can adjust my schedule as needed. And, hey, if I need to take a call at 5:00 or 6:00 or 7:00 at night, I can do that. I can adjust my schedule a little bit. So I've really enjoyed that. And as a tech person, I've enjoyed seeing people embracing technology. Things that nobody was even thinking about 2 years ago is now normal life for everybody. So, I mean, it is a tragedy. I've lost friends and family to COVID, and there's been a lot of negative, a whole lot of negative. But if you try to look a little bit to some of the positives, I think there's been a lot of great strides in business operations and things like that, and because of it.
Absolutely true. All right, so let's move on to our next question, which is that there's a very famous statement that modern problems require modern solutions. How much do you agree with that or disagree with that, to that matter?
I would say strongly agree. I mean, sometimes tried and true works, treating people like people, that's should be, I mean, that's an old tradition and an old methodology, but still works. But when you start talking about, hey, I need to have this call and I'm running late to this meeting. Oh, I'll just pick up your phone and call, and now it's, hey, I'm late to this meeting. Well, get on a Zoom call or Teams or WebEx or whatever your app of choice is. Like, I think modern technology has solved so many modern problems. Just the ability, you can talk to somebody all the way around the world without going to them. It's great to see how simple technologies that have been around for a long time are able to, even stuff. So you talk about help desk. If there's a problem with your laptop, you got to go talk to somebody and bring your because 15 years ago, that was what you did. You had a problem, you called somebody and they came over to your desk and fixed your desktop. But now you've got, Log Me In and TeamViewer and all these other things where you have remote desktop where, so, hey, I'm having this problem. I can be on a yacht in the Pacific and jump on somebody, his laptop sitting in New York City and be like, cool, let's go and take care of this problem. I mean, so the modern solutions have become just normal now, which is amazing. It's great to see how people are starting to look at things differently, and they're not always saying, hey, well, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to continue to do it. And I love that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And on that note, what is the one tech trend that you're particularly excited about going into the future?
As normal as it's going to sound, as AI, I'm sure that's what everybody's kind of focused on. But AI is such a large concept. When you start talking about even the difference between, when you get on a website and there's a little chat box that says, hey, ask us a question. I mean, that's AI. When you talk about, smart cards and how, like, they're, I guess not smart car, but, technology in cars that are allowing, the space between your car and the car in front of you for, the adjustable cruise control, like, that's AI. So to see how we're allowing computers to learn our patterns so that they can help protect us from ourselves, I think that's great. The other side of that is, different companies that are going to use the data that they collect to, hurt or punish or, monetize our decisions. Just stuff. I was at a conference a while ago, a couple years ago, and somebody was talking about how they're using like voice recordings, and they're seeing, okay, well, like, if you call in and you're talking to customer service, they'll start saying, okay, if this person is yelling, then they might have a greater chance of heart problems in the future. So, like, the insurance companies are looking at these things and be like, we're going to raise this person's insurance rates because they were yelling at a customer service representative because the company was trying to steal money from this person. So you get all this weird stuff where people are trying to monetize you know people's decisions, and sometimes it's just an anomaly. But with big data and AI, I think you're going to get a whole lot of really interesting technology breakthroughs coming out, and how do we utilize all of this information that's just like stockpiling everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. So one of the things that I often talk about with my team is that as long as you're comfortable and you have faith in the Googles and the Apples and the Samsung of this day and age,
Mhm.
You're good. But the
Right.
day you start losing faith in them, or on the flip side, the day they start betraying your faith, that's
Right.
where it all goes downhill. So how long do you think
Right. Well, I mean, yeah.
a matrix-like situation is away from us?
um, I mean, sure. I mean, that's always the end all be all of AI issues. That or SmartNet or not SmartNet. What do you? Skynet. Why did I smart it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, when you look at, when the computers come after us, so when you start looking at technology, and you even look at the three rules for robots, and things where, how do we, of course you're always going to have horror movies and scenarios that are set up based on, this thing that we think is on our side is really not on our side. You get that from Cujo or Carrie, like, people who are, oh, this is just a normal whatever, and oh no, wait, now they're against us. So technology is the similar thing, where you have, there's so many movies where, some version of technology is attacking us. I maybe I'm being, too innocent and whatever, but I don't see that as being the problem. I see the problem is how are human beings who are known for taking advantage of other human beings going to use technology to take advantage of more human beings more efficiently? I'm not worried about Skynet. I'm not worried about, Judgment Day. I'm worried about, you look at, even, I mean, without trying to get too political, but you look at like Facebook and how Facebook has managed to segment society into small groups, and those groups don't, now you've built walls up. So now the people in this group think the people in this group are evil, and the people in this group think the people of this group are evil. Neither one of them are now talking to each other. So you've had this one social media platform that has caused a massive rift in humanity. Both sides see that problem, but think it's the other side's problem, which is so for me, I'm not worried about Facebook as its own app trying to take over. I'm worried about when people say, hey, I can become a billionaire by exploiting people's weaknesses. That's my matrix. Is, you're gonna take a step back, and the architect of the matrix is really just a guy who's like, I've just enslaved the entire world and now I'm the richest man alive. So that's my concern, isn't that technology is going to take over.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That so I'm in the marketing team, right? So the first day I joined the marketing team here at tkxel, my boss told me that there is no such thing as ethical marketing.
Right.
And that was quite surprising to me, but now I understand that even basics of marketing revolve around manipulating people to buy your product that they weren't going to buy otherwise.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure.
And
it's sad when you start thinking about it. Every conversation you have is an attempt to get somebody to agree with you on something.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously we're trying to sell software services, but someone might have more, evil
right.
ambitions, and they can
Right.
use this technology to achieve much worse things.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we've talked about something that you're excited about. What is one of the future trends that you're more on the skeptical side of things?
So I love how we're relying on technology to solve our problems, but I think a lot of the problem we are going to face in the future is relying on technology to solve our problems. Talking to family members, I have young nieces and nephews and stuff like that who are going through school. And I remember when I was a kid, the math teachers would say you can't use a calculator because you're not going to have a calculator with you everywhere you go. Yeah. Like, I have a calculator with me everywhere I go. But because of that, I can do simple addition and subtraction in my head. I can, if I want $5 back instead of $4 and some change, and I give some, like, I've done this before where, the cashier looks at me like I just stripped naked in front of them. And it's like, no, this is what I want back as change for a specific purpose. And some of those skills that people learn when they don't rely on technology are skills that people don't have when they rely on technology. I remember my best friend's phone number from 35 years ago. I really have to think about what my wife's phone number is because it's in my phone. I don't ever have to dial it. I dial my best friend every day, so like I remember his phone number. He hasn't had that phone number in 25 years. I don't know what his current phone number is because it's in my phone. So when you start looking at that, I mean, those are silly examples, but
But
the more we start relying,
but wouldn't you agree that
sure,
technology also helps us free our mind from such things and makes more space in our mind for more important things? For example, there's,
sure,
I mean, a lot of research shows that there's only a limited amount of space in our mind, just like our computer. So if
hmm
you're using some of that space to store phone numbers, for example,
right,
you might as well use that for something more important. So do you agree?
sure, sure. No, no, absolutely. I was using it as a silly example, but one that's relatable to anybody. But I mean, when there's stuff, when you start looking at, you know, just solving problems and you say, okay, well, I've done this before and I can solve this problem. So, you know, if somebody comes up and they say, hey, my computer's not playing sound or whatever, and I can go in and I can say, well, based on the handful of things that I've done before, I can go in and I can do this. Or you say, I don't, you know, I know I've seen this before, but I don't remember, let me Google it. So then you start getting into using technology as a way to circumvent
Yeah,
the human brain from
that's true.
thinking.
That's true.
So when you start using technology as a way to stop yourself from reasoning things out, thinking things out, we get the Facebook thing again, where, you know, I'm sure this person isn't evil, and I'm sure this person isn't evil, but they both think they are because they're relying on technology to tell them so instead of just having a conversation. You know, and I think for me, that's the scary part of technology is when we start relying on technology to be um, you know, perfect, and we start relying on technology to take the place of our own due diligence and our own thought processes. That's what scares me about the embrace, the full on embrace of technology is, you know, we're doing it to ourselves using technology.
All right. The next question is a bit ironic since we're the
Sure.
ones who build machines. And the question is asking about what we can learn from them. But I guess that's a fair question.
No, it's, I mean, we can learn a lot from machines. You know, inherently machines are, you know, quote unquote perfect. You know, you give them a task, they complete that task. You know, you can watch machines do the same thing over and over. So we can learn a lot about you know, how to, you know, model our behaviors that make sense because we can throw a machine through a series of things and see how that output happens and
That's
say, okay, well, if we adjust here, we adjust here, we adjust here. I mean, machines teach us all kinds of things. I was looking, Reddit had a thing today. There was a picture of the top 200 shots in the NBA versus in 2001, 2002 season versus like last season, and how everything was spread out 20 years ago, and then everything is, you know, in a few like spots.
Mhm.
And you know, when you start using you know, machines to help us to figure out what's the most efficient way to do that, so people stopped taking 2-point shots because you can take a step back and make a 3-point shot. That's 50% growth. Why would you not take that shot? You know, so, you know, when you start looking at how that data is compiled and analyzed, I mean, that's technology. You know, that's using technology to solve a problem. Like, hey, we'll score more points if you take a step back, you know. And so it's I mean, we're learning things from machines all the time, which is amazing, but it's not relying on the machines to tell us what to do. It's using the machines to show us where
Yeah.
the holes in our reasoning are. I mean, I using machines for learning is amazing. I mean, it's great. I mean, just analytics alone, you know, is it's so great.
Perfect. All right. So our last question:
Sure.
how do you think companies should train future leaders to benefit society or human society going forward?
Um, Honestly, is to talk about the humanity. You know, I've worked with people and worked for people before who look at the technology as the end game. So, you know, I used to work as a help desk person years ago, and you know, we were talking about, you know, what we do, and I said, you know, it's customer service. You know, we're here to help the customer, and it was like, no, we're here to fix the machines. And I said, well, we help the customer by fixing the machines. Our job isn't to fix the machines because sometimes you replace the machines. So fixing the machines isn't the problem. It's making sure that these people can do their jobs. We are taking care of people using machines to do that. And I think as I've watched my career progress and working with and dealing with more people, I think more people are starting to be on that side, but still making sure that new people coming into this understand that technology isn't about the technology. Technology is about empowering lives, and technology is about crossing gaps. And you can have a conversation with the richest person in the world and the poorest person in the world if you just put each one of them in front of a laptop. Like, how great is that? You can, people who are solving problems. You have high school kids all around the world that are telling grown adults, hey, you missed this thing, and this thing is huge, and you should look into that. And like, you have teenagers helping to change the world because of technology. You've got, just it's amazing to see, how that's working, but you have to come from that understanding that technology isn't the point. Empowering people, bettering our society, bettering our world, using the technology is the point. So as new people come in, training them up to realize that you're not here to fix a computer or build a server or create a network. You're here to allow others to do what they're supposed to do. You're here to build this thing and be a part of this group that's doing something awesome. And showing people that, I think, is a great way to also allow others to get into the system. When we talk about, especially, women in STEM and things like that, showing that this isn't just about playing with toys, this is about bettering society. And then you start getting people who maybe, I wasn't really thinking about computers, but if I can use computers to help people. So for me, that's always my thing, is how can we use technology to help people? That's the end game here.
Perfect. So that's a perfect note to end our podcast on. That
Awesome.
we should always try to use technology to better human society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool.
So,
Well,
Chris,
I appreciate the time.
thank you so much for taking out the time, and
Thank you.
we hope we can do this again sometime.
Hey, just let me know.
Perfect.
Thanks.